people who've had the most influence in our lives, well, they occupy a very special place in our hearts. And for most of us, these are only a few individuals. So we should capture their essence. Reflect for a moment about the influential people in your lives and what they've given to you. Your stories about them will share their wisdom, connect you to others, and for you, it will be cathartic. Ramapo College has given me two such individuals, and in this story, I will share with you the impact Joe Johnson had in my life. When you listen to this story, take note of the difference between telling and showing in structuring the story. And here's how it works. If I told you Joe Johnson understood perfectly well motivational learning, you're going to think, wow, Vince really thinks this guy got it. But if I show you a visual example of how I came to that conclusion, you may say, oof, Joe Johnson really understood learning. It's a very persuasive and powerful technique. I found myself at Ramapo College in New Jersey. It's where I fell in love with language and literature. I was a young 20-year-old student, and Joe Johnson, and he wanted us to call him Joe, was a young professor. He had gained some notoriety as a writer in the Umbra Poets Workshop, a group of black writers who met regularly on Manhattan's Lower East Side. I took his Beat Generation literature class, and on the first day, Joe walked in, said to 22 students, take out a piece of paper and write down the grade you want to receive. I wrote down an A. I don't know what anybody else wrote down. And then he said, there are two things that need to happen for you to receive that grade. First is you need to bring that piece of paper with you on the last day. And second, you need to show up for that last class. The next time we met, there were 10 students, and all 10 showed up to every class and really kind of in an engaging, invigorating workshop environment. Very exciting. And on the last day, 22 people came, and Joe said, take out that piece of paper, and now cross out the grade I told you. Everybody went, oh, what's he going to do? He said, now, write down the grade you would like to receive for this class, and that's what you will get. Took a moment. I actually wrote down an A-. I noticed the person next to me wrote down B+. That's what we earned. I don't know what anybody else wrote down, but what an interesting way to approach academia and learning. The next example is when the first time I went to Joe's office, I noticed that there was nothing on the walls. There was a window overlooking the Ramapo Mountains, but it was like the office was bare, except for one item. Joe had a jar of mustard on his desk. A jar of mustard. The third example is when I asked him to write a letter of recommendation. It was a big move for me, a young white student asking a kind of an experienced, well-renowned black poet to write him a letter of recommendation. I wound up getting a full scholarship to Southern Illinois University for my graduate studies, and to this day, it's one of the honors of my life to have Joe recommend me. My final example is Joe's style. You could almost call it sparse, concise in his language, but a really deep thinker. We were reading Naked Lunch by William Burroughs during that class, and he said something that I'll never forget. He said, I can smell the alcohol on the page. And it just changed the way that I read literature. And all these years later, I'm still sharing that story. Joe Johnson was one cool dude.